Welcome to Redditors. Please hit the like button. Let's get on with the video.
What is your best effort? I've been a nice person my whole life. Now I'm going to do something bad. Story. I threw a girl's phone, who bullied my friend, out of a fair as we laughed as she asked me to hold it to take a selfie. My arms are long. She said my friend couldn't be in it because she was ugly. It felt really good. Now I want to hear the story from the random person who got beamed in the head by a phone out of nowhere. Someone smashed the pumpkin I had on my front porch for Halloween. I was so mad that night I took an old person shin it. I then put it on the same step my pumpkin was, then hid in my room and watched out the window. I don't know if it was the same kid that smashed my pumpkin that later tried to steal the purse, but the happiness I took from that moment of a kid reaching his hand in the purse while he was walking away to steal the money more than made up for the anger of a smashed pumpkin. I can't possibly imagine the amount of anger that led to the thought process of I'm so mad I'm gonna shin this purse. I followed the rules 100% that were laid out by my parents until I hit 18 and wanted to hang out with a group of friends. Thing is, there needs to be adult supervision at all times when I go over to a friend's house. I got fed up. Some of these people I've known for 4 years, and went anyway even though the hosting party's parents were not home. And nothing bad happened. All we did was play Dungeons and Dragons for 5 hours. After 2 years of working somewhere and getting treated like I didn't get a permanent contract and called in sick on my last day. Because I hated that job. I had only called in sick once before for 1 day. After that they still said I had to come to work. So I just said sure I'll come and just didn't show up. That day off felt really good. I worked somewhere and got promoted, so I know I wasn't bad at my job for 5 years and was treated increasingly badly by other management. Especially after I reported 2 of them for abusing staff members and HR told them I'd made the report. I booked 2 weeks holiday, drove down to the coast, and called the store manager to say I was handing in my notice. She cried and begged me not to leave her with no lower management. Everyone else had already walked. Spent my notice on holiday, and that was the best holiday of my life. I was a teen and found $1,000 in an ATM. This was one of those ATMs that had a place where the money would drop to. This was the early 90s. I don't think they just drop it anymore, they all retract back into the machine if you don't take it. But during this time, that technology didn't exist. I went to the bank to return the money. I was sick of this bank. I was an American expat in Singapore who needed a bank account. Long boring story, but wanted to explain why a teen hated a bank. Anyway, I had to always wait in line. Never enough tellers. People were pretty rude, etc. This bank sucked. After waiting for 15 minutes, with one teller in the line still 10 deep, I said to myself, F it. I came to return this money. I tried to be honest, but they are making it impossible for me. I went and bought a stereo. It was alright. My elderly mother-in-law made a little wreath to put on the door of her apartment. A couple of days later some a-hole completely destroyed it. She was really sad about it. We put it back together and fixed it. I added lots of pointy needles. I put it back on the door. She told me that she heard some swearing at 6:30 in the morning. It was one of her neighbor. Didn't get along with an old roommate because she moved her boyfriend and dog in. She was generally very messy. He didn't pay rent and her dog was a liquid machine. Her dog ruined my lover sack and soaked it with piss and I asked her to repay me for it and have her boyfriend leave, and instead of repaying me she stole items I kept in all common rooms to spite me. Snitched to my landlord and got her evicted. Also pissed in her shampoo bottle. My ex's friend would always hit me and kick me and I couldn't hit her back. So one day at a freshman dance, she hit me with a spike of her high heels. And I grabbed it out of her hand and threw it to the far end of the cafeteria. F you, Michaela. When I was a teen I had a boyfriend. He was older. I then thought it was cool, but it really was just creepy. I was super loyal to him, and he gaslighted me constantly, manipulated and lied to me. We had mutual friends and they sent me some pictures of him cheating with other girls at a party he lied about attending. I arranged a meetup at my place. Pretended all was fine. He lived quite far away, so he traveled 4 hours to meet me. As soon as he arrived at my doorstep, I curtly confronted him about his lies, broke up with him and sent him on his long way back home. Took less than 5 minutes total. Never treated anyone like that before or after. It was glorious. I used to work in retail. One night a customer asked me when a jacket would be discounted. I told her that I couldn't say for sure because we weren't told when certain items would be reduced in price. She called me dumb and an idiot and asked me to put it on hold for 24 hours in case it got discounted overnight. I think it's also worth noting that she claimed to be an Instagram influencer with over 5,000 followers and she said she lose deals if she didn't get the jacket. Also, she was racist toward the store's security guard, who happens to be one of the kindest people I've ever met. I put the jacket aside for her, but not before doing a system search and finding out that there were only 3 left in this size in the entire country. As you may have guessed from my username, and live in New Zealand, so not a particularly big country. Fast forward 24 hours and she hasn't come to pick up the jacket. I was feeling extra petty and had had a particularly bad day the day before, so exactly 24 hours after I put it aside for her I decided to buy it. I browsed around the store for a while before going to pay, and of course Karen was up there at the checkouts. If she had been ranting at my colleague about the jacket I would have given it to her to save another from the wrath of Karen, but she was going on about the car park and appeared to have forgotten about the jacket. Once I got to the car I went online and bought the other jacket before driving to the other side of town and buying the third and last one in the country. It was near the end of the season, so chances are there weren't going to be any more. The whole thing cost more money than I would have liked, but I stopped a Karen from getting her way for once, so I don't regret it. I got bullied a lot in high school, in particular my maths class, because I'm simply weak with numbers, so I was in the lowest capability class with mostly kids who just didn't want to try because it wasn't cool. Whenever we used calculators, our saint of a teacher would get a huge box of them out and we'd go up to the front and grab one. We were supposed to put them back at the end as we were leaving, but most of them just gave their calculators to me to put back as opposed to taking 3 extra steps to do it. I've just finished doing my unofficial job as keeper of calculators and I'm grabbing my bag to leave. This guy comes back in and says, "Forgot this. Put it back OP." Handing me his calculator. No please. Not even 5 seconds of eye contact. Just the order and assumption. Something in me broke and I picked it up and heaved it at the guy's head. It hits my chest. This was coupled with a firm and simple no in a raised voice. I then realize what I've done and sheepishly turn to my saint of a teacher. This man has watched this class bully me for a long time now. Watched me not respond to it. Let me sit in the back with headphones in as long as the work's done so I can try and improve my damn grade in peace. This angel of a teacher looks at me, and in one fluid motion winks, and tilts his head at the door telling me to get gone before she erupts. He knows I don't throw things at people and probably never would again. I never did. I kept putting the calculators away at the end though. Perfect attendance from kindergarten all the way to senior year in high school, until a girl asked me to ditch 1 hour with her. Suffice to say, that cost me an award. As a teacher, I hate those awards. All it means is your parents sent you to school when you were sick and you got everyone else sick, because there is not a kid alive who won't get sick at all for 12 years. In high school, my friends and I would hang out over by the bleachers of one of the baseball fields, pretty far from the quad and most of the other kids. We were sitting in a circle on the grass just talking, and some freshmen we didn't know started chasing each other around and almost kicked our stuff a few times. My friend said nicely, "Hey, can you please be careful?" And one of the kids sneered at her and said, "Why? Like your fat egg could catch me." She was a bigger girl. Before I even processed my own reaction, I immediately stood up and sucker punched him in the side of the head. He dropped like a sack of potatoes and started yelling. He ran over to his other friends, one of whom was apparently his older brother, trying to get them to come beat me up, but the brother just shrugged and said, "You were being a dick. You deserved it." My friend was grateful for defending her honor and the kid I punched never bothered us again. I'm doing it right now. I'm sort of the linchpin in my family. My older sisters frequently fight each other. My parents don't get along, but I try to hold things together. I help my sister with her mental health, the other one with money, and even though we all live near each other, I'm the only one that visits my parents. I take care of my grandma every day, help anyone that asks and do so frequently, cook for people constantly, and I'm always the first one back down to avoid a fight. I'm also gay. My dad has been struggling with this for a while and being his usual shithead self about it to me. I let it go. For almost 4 years I let him have wiggle room to work things out, and it's clear now he's made no effort at all. Then came Christmas. My aunt who was hosting insisted I bring my boyfriend who everyone knows and loves already, except, of course, my dad. He had not even met him. We were all in the same house for a while before I had some liquid courage and went to my dad and asked, "Do you want me to introduce you?" With the most petulant facial expression I've ever seen, he practically yelled no and turned away from me and started talking to my very uncomfortable uncle. I was embarrassed, enraged, and so very disappointed. F it. Burn the bee down. I told everyone in the family and they all turned on him. I stopped taking to my dad. It's been 6 months. My sisters are furious at my mom for defending him. Every text he's sent me I've ripped him a new one. And they've basically cut him out as well. My mom is mad at me for detonating this bomb, but I don't care. I'm tired of ripping parts out of myself to keep this rusted old junker of a family running. No one does anything for me ever, so I'm doing something for me. Sort yourselves out. Or F off. Life's too short to saddle myself with everyone else's bullshit. My sister is kind of evil, and one day she was really being abusive to our mom. Screaming and yelling and insulting our mother to the point of lunacy. Mom began to tear up a bit, and I didn't really like that. Then my sister says, "Oh wow, you're crying." I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and I instinctively poured it over her head. Suddenly, I was the bad guy, which was fine, because I don't really care what someone says while they're covered in coffee anyways. Waste of good coffee. I was in the grocery store 2 weeks ago and did something bad. I go to a place with top quality beef, and I buy boneless ribbies that cost $21.99 on a regular basis. For some reason on my last trip, there were 2 packages, 4 steaks total, that were marked as pork chops for $6.99. I dropped them both in my cart and went on my way. A few years ago I took a day trip to the beach with a bunch of people. We got to the beach at 9 AM and stayed until 4. At this particular beach there is a beach restaurant and bar that has a DJ and dance floor. As we were packing up I noticed the couple we drove up was still at the bar. I asked my so to go get them and I'd head to the car to start cooling it off, thinking it would be nice for everyone else to get into a cool car rather than a boiling one. When they got to the car the girlfriend was drunk and being a bee. For 15 minutes she complained how we ditched them at the beach and how rude we were, and just on and on while I'm driving them home. Now I'm a generally laid back person, but I couldn't believe how selfish and entitled she was being, and it was directed at me. So I lost it on her and basically screamed that if I had ditched them at the beach they would still be there, not in my car, and if she wanted to continue to be a bee she and her boyfriend could get out and take an Uber home. She shut up and didn't say another word the remainder of the drive. Her boyfriend thanked me for the ride and apologized when I dropped them off. She apologized the next day as well, but it gets brought up now and then because it was so out of character for me to snap like that. 7th grade. I was sitting at my desk reading a book on my crappy little e-reader. The kid at the table behind me wouldn't leave me alone, mockingly going, "Indigo, I love you. Why don't you love me? Indigo, why are you ignoring me? Indigo, why aren't you talking to me?" interspersed with kissy noises. And that day I'd absolutely had it, so I turned around and just backhanded him across the face with the tablet. He left me alone after that and I didn't get in trouble. Last year my best friend ran into another kid from that class and told him I said hi, and he was like, "Shh, remember that time she slapped that guy across the face? That was great." 3rd grade. Stole erasers from book fair. I don't think we are supposed to post horrifying stories like that.